Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Spice World. And I'm sorry, but this has to be said right at the top. This is not a good movie. Structurally, narratively, thematically, it is a train wreck. That said, I loved this movie so much as a kid. My friends and I loved it. And I love the Spice Girls. I still love the Spice Girls. Won't lie. I love their music. They were huge back in the late 90s. And they are returning. They're having a mini reunion tour just in the UK. Unfortunately, not in the US, but in the UK. They'll be doing a concert series, a few concerts in June. But 4 out of 5 of them, Victoria won't be there. So this movie, it came out in the UK in 1997 and then in the US in 98. Oh my goodness. My friends and I would watch this movie so many times. And we loved it. And I hadn't seen it in a really long time. And so when I watched it now, I was surprised by how much I didn't remember about it. But then the things I did remember kind of made me smile, and the memories all came back. Also, there were a lot of adult jokes in this that 100% went over my head as a kid. But yeah, this movie's a mess. I'm sorry. I need to say that again. It's just so weird. It really is. The best parts are, without a doubt, all the songs. Spice Girls had amazing songs that would just get stuck in your head and you could just sing along to them. I mean, Girl Power, yes, that's a great anthem. Positivity and bringing women together. But my God, this movie, I'm already regretting this. This is by far, I hope this will be the worst movie I ever discuss on this podcast. Because, of course, I talk about my favorites, and this was one of my favorites as a kid, so I figured this will be a fun trip down memory lane. And I knew, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be good, but oh my gosh. The plot is so bad. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get into it. First off, it opens with a great song, Too Much, and we see each of the Spice Girls. I shouldn't have to explain them to you, but I will, because if you're a huge Spice Girl fan, like I was and still am, you already know them. But we have Mel B, better known as Scary Spice, Emma, better known as Baby Spice, Mel C, Sporty Spice, Jerry, Ginger Spice, and Victoria, Posh Spice. And there's a fun cameo right at the beginning with Elton John. That's a fun one. Oh my gosh, I don't want to recap the entire movie because it's trash. It is. So I'll just sum up things and just talk about my few favorite moments, few funny lines that did make me laugh that I totally didn't remember as a kid. But basically, there are several villains in this movie, but they're all kind of have this vendetta against the Spice Girls where they just want to make money off of them, pretty much. There is this guy, Piers, played by Alan Cumming, who wants to do a documentary about the Spice Girls. Then there is this newspaper guy. His name is Kevin McMaxford. And he wants a story that will ruin the Spice Girls' reputation. So he's awful. And then, I guess he's the main villain. But then there are also, these guys aren't villains, but they still just want to make money. They are these two guys who are trying to pitch movie ideas about the Spice Girls to their manager, Clifford, who's just super uptight and needs to relax, but that's another issue. And so basically it's kind of a day in the life of the Spice Girls. You get to see them at press parties, doing fashion shoots, rehearsing. They hang out with two little girls who were contest winners. They get to spend the day with them. There's also the part where they're in boot camp or dance camp, whatever, and they're dressed in army gear, but of course Posh Spice is in just her camouflage dress and her heels still, as the rest of the girls are doing this obstacle course. And Posh is just walking like she's on the runway or something. And then there's also their pregnant friend Nicola, who her man ran out on her. She's just a single soon-to-be mom. So that's tragic. And was friends with the Spice Girls before they were famous. And her only purpose in the movie, we don't even know what she does for a living. Her only purpose is just the Spice Girls feel bad that they're neglecting their friend because they're so busy with work and they need a break, they need to relax, which that's fine, but it's just, we have to hang out with Nicola, and Nicola was just their one, I guess, not talented enough friend who couldn't be in the Spice Girls with them. It's just, oh my gosh. But then it's cute when she gives birth to a baby girl, of course, and you have that nice girl power moment. That's sweet. Oh boy. That about sums up the movie. And then the whole point is that they're anticipating this huge gig where they're going to be performing live. And they're nervous about it, but of course they give an amazing performance and they sing Spice Up Your Life. What I mostly remembered about this movie was I remembered the scene where they go into the woods and then all of a sudden a UFO comes down, because why not? And then there are aliens. They go up to the Spice Girls and they're fans of the Spice Girls because, well, that makes sense, of course. Why wouldn't that make sense? Aliens. Everyone knows and loves the Spice Girls. But they want tickets and they're like, oh, it's sold out. So then they get autographs and stuff, and Jerry gives one of them a kiss. The other big thing I had remembered was the whole chase sequence or action sequence where Victoria is driving the bus because they have to get to their gig. They don't want to let the fans down because first they had threatened that they weren't going to perform, but after they were in the hospital, Nicola gives birth, then they're able to leave, so then they go. They're racing to get there in time. And that's kind of clever, the meta layer of the one guy pitching the movie idea to their manager. And he's describing everything that is happening in real time. He's saying this is how the movie's going to be. And then he says stuff like, oh, all of a sudden the girls are all on the bus. Emma slips, but then Mel B grabs her. But then Mel B slips, so Jerry grabs her. And then Mel C slips, so she grabs her. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, oh yeah, one's driving the bus. And then all of a sudden Emma looks down and she sees there's a bomb and they all scream. And then the bridge is going up and he says, oh, are they going to try to jump it? Of course they are. And then the one guy says, that sounds expensive. Doesn't have to be. And that's a cute meta joke. And then there's just an image of a toy bus going over a toy bridge. That's clever and funny. Their big tour bus, by the way, has a huge image of the UK flag, which is cool. And then I had remembered the very ending, the the credits scene, where they're breaking the fourth wall. And first off, they're talking about making the movie, and then they break the fourth wall where they're looking at the movie watchers in the movie theater. My friends and I loved that part where Victoria says, oh, not you, the girl in the back, I love your dress. And then the part where Mel C says, oh, I bet they're wondering, what happened to the bomb on the bus? And then you just hear a huge explosion. So the bus blew up, so they all could have died. Whatever, no big deal. It's just so ridiculous. So that's the plot. That's the plot, in case you forgot. And if you want to relive the nostalgia, don't waste your time. Just go ahead and listen to some Spice Girl songs to pump you up. You don't need to watch this movie again because, wow, I'm sorry, but not worth your time at all. It's just not. But my friends and I loved the Spice Girls, and I do in fact still have their first album, Spice. And they only had 3 albums. I didn't realize that. Their first album was Spice, released in 1996. Their second was Spice World, released in 1997. And their third and last one was Forever, released in 2000. And oh my goodness, was it devastating when we learned that Jerry, aka Ginger Spice, would be leaving Spice Girls. Then it was all over. Because this is a generational thing. Spice Girls were huge when I was a kid, growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s. But then on the boy band side, of course, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. But I am a Backstreet Boys fan all the way. Not that I didn't love NSYNC, I did, but I prefer the Backstreet Boys. They're still going strong. Nothing beats I Want It That Way. That is the ultimate boy band song in my opinion. But then of course, so in the 2010s, there were One Direction. And then of course, when Zayn left, same thing. Then of course, the band goes their separate ways. That's what happens with these groups. They want to do their own separate things. Nothing wrong with that. But Spice Girls is all about feminism and girl power. And it's great. And so what's interesting is to talk about more about the Spice Girls and less about that movie. They evidently got their nicknames, Posh Spice, Scary Spice, Baby Spice, Sporty Spice, and Ginger Spice, after they had met with an editor of a magazine who explains that to boost their marketability, they would be given these nicknames synonymous with their personalities. Victoria is Posh Spice because she's chic, she's got that snobby air to her, that bourgeois attitude, and of course into the latest fashion trends. And then Mel B is Scary Spice for her loud, in-your-face persona, but also super confident, and of course her wild hair. And then Mel C, Sporty Spice, into activewear and sports. And Jerry, Ginger Spice, for her red hair, of course, but also her lively personality. Though in the movie they make her this know-it-all. Because they're playing themselves, but just even more enhanced versions of themselves. And then my favorite Spice Girl was and is Baby Spice. Her girly girl personality and blonde pigtails. And in the movie, she's eating a lollipop a lot of the time, randomly. She's kind of like a real-life Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. That same cutesy, sweet personality. My friends and I, we used to pretend to be the Spice Girls, of course. My one friend loved Posh Spice, so she would throw on a dress and just play around with her hair, be all, oh, I'm posh, all proper and everything. But also, back to the movie, unfortunately, it's just these sleazy men, of course, trying to profit off of the Spice Girls. There's that one part where they're rehearsing, and then the dude's just some weird dude, whoever the heck he is, he just interrupts saying, that was absolutely perfect without being any good. I mean, excuse you. The Spice Girls are amazing. That's just straight up rude. but they were rehearsing Say You'll Be There. Love that song. That's one of the songs on Spice, that old album that I have, their first album. And then that documentarian guy is trying to film them, and he just says, "Oh, film the posh one. The one that looks posh." That's sort of funny, I guess. Actually, another funny moment that I did completely forget was when that newspaper guy, Kevin, is talking to his, whatever he is, his writer, his lackey, Brad, and he's annoyed at him for publishing a headline saying Spice Girls set to conquer the globe. And he says, "You told us to write that story, Kevin." And then he's talking about, "Well, I just want to take down the Spice Girls. I don't care what they do, even if they find a cure for deja vu." And he says, "Not me." And then, he says it again, "Even if they find a cure for deja vu, not me." That was funny. And he's saying he wants all these kind of headlines. Spice Girls live show canceled. Spice Girls fallout. Spice Girls split up. Anything to get those views. And this, of course, was newspapers before the internet really was a big thing. Because, of course, now it would be just all wanting those clicks, you know? But the guy just gets super passionate and swept up in wanting to take down the Spice Girls. And then he just says, "I want to take on girl power and bring it crashing and whipping to the ground." And then all of a sudden there's this burst of lightning and rain. And it's raining indoors. It's raining on the guy, Brad. And he just says, "I'll find someone, Kevin. I just wish you wouldn't get so upset." That was very bizarre. And that actually was really funny to me. It made no sense. So weird, this movie. And the tone is just so all over the place. It's so bizarre. And then there's another random funny line from the bus driver, who, by the way, is Meatloaf, the singer Meatloaf, because there's also a joke where he says, "I do anything for the Spice Girls, but I won't do that." Just a reference to his song, "I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that." Anyway, he announces to the girls, "It is dangerous to store moisturizing cream in the refrigerator, as it can be mistaken for mayonnaise. That is all." So then there's a part where Jerry and Mel B are playing chess. And then Jerry gets annoyed at Mel B, and she's saying, "Oh, you can't do that." And Mel B says, "Says who?" And Jerry says, "Says Mr. Chess. I'm going to slap you in a minute." They just get bickering with each other, the girls. And what I appreciate is there's some self-aware humor. They're just all poking fun at themselves. There's a part earlier where Jerry is reading their horoscopes, and then Emma says, "Oh, I don't believe in horoscopes." And Jerry says, "Aquarians don't believe in anything." And hey, she's an Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius too, Emma. And then Emma says, "Well, I don't believe that either." Then there's also a part where Victoria doesn't know what to wear, and she just keeps saying, "What should I wear, the Gucci dress or the Gucci dress?" There's just so many options. And then Emma says, "I know, why don't you wear the little Gucci dress?" And Victoria says, that's a good idea. Thanks, Em." Then later there's also a line where Emma says, "I'm always going to be seen as Baby Spice, the sweet and innocent one, even when I'm 30. Oh boy. And then there actually are like some, which I did sort of remember this, the random fantasy, whatever you want to call them, fantasy dream sequences throughout the movie. One is this part when Emma says that about always being seen as sweet and innocent. And then there's just a fantasy of some guy saying, "One of you is the murderer." And you just see Baby Spice with all these machine guns, and she just blames someone else. Like, "Oh, it wasn't me, it was that guy." And they believe her because she's sweet and innocent. She can never do that, even though she blatantly has all these weapons. But then they're kind of lamenting being stereotyped, and Victoria says, "Oh, I'm always judged what I look like," and Sporty says, "Why do we have to be stereotyped all the time?" And she's just exercising, of course. And then Scary's saying, "Yeah, look at these fish. Like, that's the fluffy one, so that's a cute one. That's an ugly loser one." And she's just making faces at the fish, being scary. And then I did also remember the photo shoot scene. And they're saying, maybe we could try new characters. Bricklayer Spice, Train Spotting Spice, Sporty, but I'm actually interested in other things Spice. Then a montage of them dressed as iconic characters. You got, for instance, Sandy and Danny Zuko from Grease, Wonder Woman, Charlie's Angels, Marilyn Monroe. Well, she's not a character, but an actress. And that's the song playing. Saturday Night Diva is another great song. And then also I did vaguely remember the part where they had dressed up as each other. Mel C was Posh Spice, Jerry was sporty, Mel B dressed as Ginger, making fun, just poking fun, saying blah blah, girl power, feminism, and Victoria's Baby saying my mommy's my best friend, and Emma Scary Spice. And then, so the newspaper guys, they hire some creepy photographer guy who's all sinister and just so weird and will just go to any lengths to take blackmailing pictures of the girls. Creepy weirdo. And then there were just some funny parts. There's a funny line where Nicola, their pregnant friend, she wants all the girls to be godmothers of her unborn baby, and Victoria says, do godmothers get stretch marks? And the part, I'm jumping around, but the part before when they're in the woods and they see the aliens, when they're performing, cool song, Leader of the Gang, fun song. And then the parts where they got these backup dancers, these toned buff dudes wearing sailor hats, and they're like, oh, this is ridiculous, these guys. And then they're like, oh, we'll have a compromise. And then the guys are there with them performing, backup dancers, and they're wearing these purple outfits now. And then the manager's saying, oh, I thought they weren't going to be on there. And then his assistant, I don't know, just the woman Deborah, she's saying, oh, there was a compromise. And then they turn around, you just see their bare butts, and she's saying, oh, that was the compromise. We thought that was hilarious as kids, my friends and I. And then there's that boot camp part, as I mentioned, when they're doing the obstacle courses, and it's dance camp, whatever you want to call it. So I don't even know. This is a mess. Just a mess. But the photographer guy, when they're staying over at this house, the photographer comes out of the toilet and he's snapping pictures, and each of the girls wakes up one by one scared. This is the weird horror-esque part. Then the girls are just talking. They're saying, Mel B is talking about how she had a dream where she didn't have a head and they couldn't sing. And they said, oh, I had that dream too. And they're saying, oh, it's because we're stressed about the live show and that we won't be able to sing. And Victoria says, oh, I had the same dream, but instead of no head, there was just no makeup on it. That's horrifying for her. I think, honestly, Victoria had some of the funniest lines that I just straight up didn't remember. There's also some funny lines where they're in the hospital. But before that, actually, when their friend goes into labor, Jerry, so they're trying to help her out, their friend Nicola, and Jerry says, put your legs together, and Mel B says, that's a bit late. She should have done that 9 months ago. Definitely a joke that just right over my head. Don't pick up on those kinds of things when you're young. But anyway, so some funny lines from Victoria when first they're in the hospital and they're just in the waiting room, a few of them, and just these parents go up to them saying, oh, can you help wake up our son? And they say, okay, sure. So, like, talk to our son because he's a fan, to help wake him up. And then they're like, oh, hello, Malcolm, and speaking softly. And then Victoria just says, I'm Victoria, Malcolm, just screaming at him. And then later when their friend is about to give birth, before that too, I apologize, I'm jumping around, but before that too, they're saying, oh, do your deep breathing. And Victoria's just, and they're saying, not you, Victoria. So then when when she is in labor in the delivery room, Nicola, and then Victoria says, oh my God, it's coming out. I think I'm going to faint. Slap me. So Emma slaps her. Then she gives birth to a girl, and we don't even know the girl's name. And there's that whole action sequence, as I mentioned. Definitely the sequence I had remembered most about the movie. Then there's a part where they run up to the steps of the building and it's Rocky theme. And they just have Emma talk to the police officer saying, "Oh, we'll never do it again, officer. We're so sorry." And of course it works like a charm. And I didn't mention this other character, so I'll mention him now. There's also this chief guy that their manager Clifford keeps talking to. He's, I guess, the head of their record label. And he just speaks in all these weird fortune-telling type nonsense. All these weird metaphors, makes no sense. But there's just one part where he's got a pet kitty, so cute, a little gray kitty. Totally didn't remember that. Then there's also a part where he just has a pet pig later on. He's giving the piggy a bottle at one point. And it's actually really adorable, but it makes no sense. This movie makes very little sense. There's also a part where he's shaking up a martini. To make a martini, he says, "No need for any stirring." That's a clever little joke too, I suppose. I'm really being nitpicky with my praise. But a big thing too about just the Spice Girls in general was their unique fashion sense, how each one had their distinct personality, which played into, of course, their nicknames, what each one was remembered by and known for. But that just made it more fun. And I sadly never saw them in concert, but used to just play their CD over and over and listen to it. And there are a lot of their songs throughout the movie. And of course, a big one is "Wannabe." If you want to be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. I mean, that line, "Friendship never ends." It just means you have to get along with my friends. I mean, "Wannabe" is just a huge song. Definitely when we think of the Spice Girls, that's one of the biggest songs from them. Definitely a favorite of mine. I do also, of course, love "Spice Up Your Life." I did also love that song "To Become One." It's a nice song. 100% didn't know the meaning behind it as a kid, even with that blatant lyric in there. It wasn't inappropriate though or anything. It wasn't in bad taste. It's still a nice song. They're all good songs on this first album. It's "Wannabe," "Say You'll Be There," "To Become One," "Love Thing," "Last Time Lover," "Mama," that's a nice one too, "Who Do You Think You Are," "Something Kind of Funny," "Naked," and "If You Can't Dance." So I know it's cliche, but that probably is my favorite song, "Wannabe" by the Spice Girls. Then probably "Spice Up Your Life," because those are such huge hits, but I love them. I remember when Spice Girls were on All That, and they performed "Spice Up Your Life." And I remember my mom saying, "Oh, they're lip syncing." And I was so offended by that, saying, "Oh, they're not lip syncing. Are you crazy?" But she was right. They were lip syncing, but that's okay. Doesn't mean they weren't talented. Because they wrote all their own songs. They had co-writers with the songs, but they wrote them as well themselves, which is awesome. That song Saturday Night Fever is not Saturday Night Fever, Saturday Night Divas. That's a fun one too. Also, the song at the end of this movie, it is "Lady Is a Vamp." That's the song playing over the credits. It's a tribute to old stars that made girl power before them. They mention 50s and 60s actors and singers. Another good song. And Spice Girls were just huge. I remember I had a Scary Spice doll. They were really hard to find, those dolls. I only had that one. I had wanted all of them, but I had Scary Spice, and it came with a microphone. It was kind of like a Barbie doll, but in the likeness of each of the Spice Girls, and I had a Scary Spice one. I also remember Spice Girls bubblegum, and then you could collect stickers, and I in fact have some of those stickers saved in one of my old diaries. I'm looking at them right now. I have 2 of Baby Spice, Actually, three different ones of Baby Spice. I have a couple of the girls, all of them together. I have one of Posh Spice smiling. Hey, not being pouty. She's full on smiling in this picture, this sticker. I have another one of Posh posing, and I have one of Scary Spice. It says 7 out of 24, 22 out of 24. So I guess there were 24 possible stickers you could collect. So I had 8 different ones, I guess. I'm sure I know I had gotten more. It was just pink bubble gum. I remember it was hard bubble gum, and the sticker would be wrapped around it. So it would be the wrapper and then the sticker that you would just peel off. And it was good bubble gum, but I think there were also lollipops, stuff like that as well. Yeah, there were lollipops with their faces on them. Interesting. Those had stickers too. Fun stuff, fun memories. So the Spice Girls were awesome. Spice World was not, but that's okay. It's still a fun movie if you're a fan of the Spice Girls, but other than that, it is what it is. That's all I can say. But my friends and I loved the Spice Girls. And they just had fun music. Fun, lively music that was fun to sing along to. So, girl power. And with that, that's going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Storytelling Saga, as well as on Twitter at Storytell Saga. You can also send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by leaving me a message in the contact section of storytellingsaga.com or by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, I'm excited to welcome another guest on the show, Patricia Miranda of Old School Lane. She and I are each going to be sharing our top 5 favorite animated antagonists, so that's going to be fun. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.